2 tanks, 2 empires, one of the most brutal battlefields the world has ever seen. The frozen plains of the Eastern Front in World War II became the stage for a confrontation that defined modern warfare, the German Tiger I and the Soviet T-34. One was a masterpiece of engineering, precise, powerful, and feared. The other was a triumph of practicality, fast, reliable, and unstoppable. But how did these 2 machines of war come to symbolize the struggle between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union? And more importantly, why did the simpler, cheaper, and less powerful tank ultimately win the war? To understand this clash of steel and ideology, we have to step back to the bitter winter of 1942. In June 1941, Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in human history. Over 3 million German soldiers, supported by 500,000 vehicles, stormed into the Soviet Union. At first it looked unstoppable. The Wehrmacht advanced hundreds of kilometers in just weeks, encircling Soviet armies and capturing millions of prisoners. German propaganda promised a quick victory, a new dawn for the 1,000-year Reich. But as summer turned to autumn, things changed. The roads became mud, the skies filled with snow, and the Red Army, battered but unbroken, refused to surrender. By the winter of 1941 to 42, the lightning war had slowed to a crawl. The Germans reached the gates of Moscow but could go no further. Their tanks, designed for fast, short campaigns, struggled in the endless Russian landscape. Engines froze, supplies dwindled, and morale cracked. For the first time, the German army faced an enemy it couldn't crush, and a climate it couldn't control. In the ruins of burned villages and frozen forests, the balance of power began to shift. The Soviets started fighting back with new strategies, new weapons, and a new kind of tank. By mid-1942, German command realized something alarming. Their best tanks, the Panzer III and IV, could no longer dominate the battlefield. They had met a formidable opponent, the Soviet T-34, which had appeared unexpectedly early in the war. German crews were stunned. The T-34's sloped armor deflected shells that should have pierced it. Its wide tracks glided through mud where German tanks sank. Its gun could destroy any panzer at standard combat range. Hitler's pride couldn't tolerate such a challenge. He demanded a countermeasure, a tank that would reassert German dominance. That order led to the birth of the Tiger I. Developed by Henschel and introduced in 1942, the Tiger I was unlike anything the world had ever seen. It was enormous, weighing nearly 57 tons. With armor thick enough to shrug off almost any Allied gun. At its heart was the legendary 88mm KWK-36 cannon, adapted from Germany's deadly anti-aircraft gun. Its accuracy and power made it capable of destroying enemy tanks before they could even return fire. German engineers obsessed over every detail: the transmission, the optics, the turret rotation speed. The Tiger wasn't just a tank, it was a technical marvel, built with the precision of a luxury car. Each one required immense resources, specialized factories, and highly trained crews. When the first Tigers entered combat near Leningrad, they made a terrifying impression. Soviet rounds bounced harmlessly off their armor. German propaganda celebrated them as invincible, rolling fortresses of the Reich. But under that image of perfection lay deep flaws. The Tiger was complicated, fragile, and expensive. It required constant maintenance, guzzled fuel, and could barely cross soft ground without bogging down. Its mechanical systems were so intricate that even minor field repairs often required factory-level equipment. For the men who faced it, the Tiger was a monster. For the men who operated it, it was both a privilege and a curse. While Germany was engineering its masterpiece, the Soviet Union was mass-producing a miracle of its own. The T-34, introduced in 1940, had been designed with a very different philosophy. It didn't need perfection. It needed to survive the conditions of the Eastern Front. The tank's creators, Mikhail Koshkin and Alexander Morozov, understood the brutal truth. The Soviet Union couldn't outbuild Germany in precision, but it could outproduce it in quantity. The T-34 embodied everything the Red Army needed: simplicity, speed, and reliability. Its sloped armor was revolutionary, deflecting many hits rather than absorbing them. Its diesel engine was tough, easy to repair, and far less likely to catch fire than the gasoline engines used in German tanks. Its wide tracks made it effective on mud, snow, and ice, the very terrain where German tanks failed. But its true advantage wasn't technical, it was industrial. When the Germans invaded, Soviet factories were relocated east of the Ural Mountains. Far from Luftwaffe bombers, entire plants were dismantled, moved by rail, and rebuilt within months. There, under brutal conditions, production of the T-34 continued without pause. By 1942, the Soviets were producing thousands of them, fast, simple, and deadly. The average T-34 could be built in about 2 weeks. For every Tiger that rolled out of a German factory, roughly 10 T-34s rolled off Soviet assembly lines. This sheer volume changed the face of warfare. Germany had better tanks, but the Soviets had more of them than Germany could ever destroy, and crucially, the T-34 could be repaired and returned to combat quickly. If a Tiger broke down, it was often lost for good. If a T-34 broke down, it was fixed in the field and sent right back. It wasn't a perfect tank. Its early optics were poor, its radio systems unreliable, and its crew conditions harsh. But perfection didn't win wars. Numbers, logistics, and resilience did. When the Tiger I and T-34 met head-to-head, the contrast was striking. The Tiger had the advantage in almost every measurable category: armor thickness, gun range, optics, and overall firepower. In open combat, a Tiger could destroy a T-34 long before the Soviet crew could even see it, but warfare isn't fought on paper, and in the vast, chaotic landscape of the Eastern Front, the battlefield rarely offered perfect conditions. By 1943, as both sides prepared for the massive Battle of Kursk, the Soviet command understood exactly how to fight their enemy. They didn't need to beat the Tiger one-on-one, they just needed to outmaneuver, outnumber, and outlast it. When the Battle of Kursk began in July 1943, the largest tank battle in history, the numbers told the story. Germany deployed around 270 Tigers and Panthers combined. The Soviets fielded more than 3,000 T-34s. The Tigers sliced through Soviet lines in the early days, their guns blasting apart enemy armor with terrifying ease. But every kilometer of advance brought more problems: fuel shortages, broken engines, clogged tracks, and endless waves of Soviet counterattacks. The T-34s struck from the flanks, encircled German spearheads, and forced the Tigers into defensive fights they couldn't sustain. When a Tiger was hit, it was often abandoned or destroyed by its own crew to prevent capture. When a T-34 was hit, another took its place. The battle lasted over a month. In the end, Germany lost hundreds of tanks, including many of its prized Tigers. The Soviets lost more, but they could afford it. Their factories replaced losses faster than the Germans could react. Kursk marked the turning point of the war in the East. The Tiger had proven terrifying, but it couldn't change the outcome. Its brilliance was no match for the Red Army's endurance. The duel between the Tiger and the T-34 wasn't just a clash of machines, it was a clash of ideologies. Germany believed in technical superiority, that precision, complexity, and craftsmanship would guarantee victory. Every Tiger was built like a piece of art, with meticulous attention to detail. But that made it slow to produce, difficult to maintain, and nearly impossible to replace. The Soviet Union believed in practicality and mass production, They didn't seek the perfect tank. They sought a tank that anyone could build, anyone could drive, and anyone could repair. Each T-34 was simpler, cheaper, and lighter, and therefore infinitely more replaceable. In the field, this philosophy made all the difference. A Tiger might destroy 10 T-34s before being taken down, but if 20 arrived instead of 10, the outcome became inevitable. The Germans treated war like an engineering problem. The Soviets treated it like an industrial one. The result was clear. The Tiger was built to win battles, but the T-34 was built to win the war. Beyond numbers and design, there were the men inside. Tiger crews were among the best trained in the world. Each member specialized in a precise role. Loader, gunner, driver, commander, all working in perfect coordination. Their confidence was high, and their machine rewarded skill. But with every battle, experienced crews were lost, and Germany had no time to train replacements. By the later years of the war, even the best machines were being driven by less experienced men. The Soviets took a different approach. They trained crews fast, often in weeks rather than months. Many died quickly, but those who survived became hardened veterans. They passed their experience to new recruits, creating a cycle of adaptation and improvement. Moreover, Soviet soldiers fought on home soil. They had seen their villages burned, their families displaced, their nation invaded. Their motivation was survival itself. For them, the T-34 was not just a weapon, it was the shield of the motherland. By 1944, the tide had fully turned. Germany's industrial capacity was collapsing under Allied bombing. Fuel shortages crippled tank divisions. Each Tiger cost so much to produce that its loss became a national setback. Meanwhile, the Soviets continued improving the T-34. The newer T-34/85 model came with a more powerful gun, thicker armor, and a larger turret. It could now destroy a Tiger with a well-placed shot, and with tens of thousands in service, they overwhelmed the Germans on every front. By the time the Red Army pushed into Eastern Europe, Tigers were rare sights, prized, but isolated relics of a fading war machine. Many were abandoned, destroyed, or captured. The legend of the invincible Tiger was shattered by the reality of war, that no weapon, however advanced, can stand against an army built on resilience and production. When the war ended in 1945, the contrast between the two tanks was stark. Only about 1,350 WW2’s tanks had ever been built. The Soviets, by comparison, had produced over 57,000 T-34s. The Tiger left a powerful legacy. It inspired generations of tank designers with its engineering brilliance. But it was a dead end, a weapon too expensive and specialized for the new world that followed. The T-34, on the other hand, became a global icon. It fought in Korea, Vietnam, the Middle East and Africa. Decades after its first battle, its design influenced countless tanks, including the post-war Soviet T-54 and T-55 series, which became some of the most produced tanks in history. The T-34 was more than a machine. It was proof that simplicity, scalability, and smart design could defeat even the most advanced enemy. Its silhouette became a symbol of Soviet resilience and industrial power. The battle between the Tiger and T-34 was not merely a duel of armor and firepower. It was a lesson in what truly wins wars. Technology can intimidate, engineering can impress, but adaptability and production win in the long run. Germany's obsession with perfection turned into its downfall. The Soviets' focus on practicality turned into victory. In war, brilliance means nothing if it cannot be repeated. A single Tiger could dominate a battlefield, but 1,000 T-34s could dominate history. The Eastern Front proved that might doesn't come from one weapon, but from the will of a nation to endure. When historians look back, they don't see just tanks. They see philosophies of survival, endurance, and innovation colliding on a frozen battlefield. The Tiger represented ambition, the desire to build the perfect machine. The T-34 represented purpose, the determination to build enough machines to win. And when those two forces met, the outcome became inevitable. 2 tanks, 2 empires, 1 front. The Tiger roared, but the T-34 rolled on. One became legend, the other became victory. And in the end, history remembers not the strongest tank, but the one that never stopped moving.